Welcome to Something to Wrestle With.
Something to Wrestle With.
Bruce Prichard. Well, you know.
Two quick questions. Do you have any idea what Macho Man was making before he left? Ballpark?
Probably close to $500,000.
So pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, especially considering, you're doing
Plus,
commentary.
he also
and
had
stuff.
the Slim Jim commercial, too. So they were paying him good, too.
Yeah, I was going to say that had to be pretty decent money. Listen, we can't talk about him leaving without talking about the thing that everybody wants to talk about.
What's that?
Stephanie McMahon.
What about it?
Well, address the rumor. Was it ever addressed in the inner circle, behind the scenes? Was there? I'm sure there was discussion. When did you first hear about it? Who told you? Where do you weigh in on it? True or not true?
Well, this rampant rumor everyone has talked about, it's funny. I didn't even hear this rampant rumor until probably 2006, maybe 2007. And I heard it from a writer on the writers' team.
Who wasn't there back then?
Who'd
you hear from?
Little Jewish kid.
Okay, roll tide. So, you kind of dodged. Do you believe it or no?
Do I believe what?
Do you believe that Randy Savage had sex with Stephanie McMahon, perhaps at underage, and Vince found out about it, and that's the reason he was seemingly whitewashed from ever being discussed or involved in any WWE programming for years to come?
I don't. I really don't. I think I would have heard something about it being right there. If they did and hid it, man, kudos to them for being able to hide it for all those years. But like I said, I didn't hear that until 10 years after Randy was gone, at least.
Given the fact that they welcomed everyone back. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Mick Foley after he trashed him, Stone Cold after some rough patches, Bret Hart after he trashed him, The Warrior, Hogan, on down the Piper.
So there's a chance for me still?
Probably not.
Okay.
Nah. What, especially not after this podcast. What do you think it was that kept Randy alienated for so long?
I don't know. I really and truly don't know. I don't know if it was simply Randy leaving at a time when Vince... there were a couple guys Vince thought would never leave, and Randy was one of them. Shawn was one of them.
Hogan was one of them.
And
Hogan left and came back.
Yeah, but I don't know if if Hogan was one of those that they looked at and said, he'll never leave. It was more like he'll be back. You know what I mean?
Right.
Randy, I think, was viewed, he'll never leave.
I've talked to some old timers over the years who, maybe weren't as big of a Macho Man fan as seemingly the casual fans are, because they felt like his in-ring work was not totally up to snuff. I always thought he had great matches. A lot of those guys, I shouldn't say a lot, a few of the guys I've talked to over the years classified him as just an average worker. But one of the things that everybody hears a lot of is that he was notorious for scripting everything, page by page by page by page. And Steamboat has talked about how long and how many pages the script was for the famous WrestleMania 3 match. Do you remember there being any ribbing or uneasiness or just talk of Randy's obsession with scripting everything in a match beforehand?
No, because I don't think, with the exception of the Steamboat match at WrestleMania 3, that Randy was that paranoid and that he had to script all of his matches. Like the story I told about Dusty and Randy and us. We had the match laid out, but it wasn't this obsessive script that you had to follow. We had fun with it and went out. Randy liked to know what he was doing. Randy liked to have a good idea and work on things ahead of time. But I don't know that he was nearly as obsessive compulsive as people like to paint him.
I would classify him as a top 10 performer all time. Would you agree with that?
I would.
Would you put him in that same category as just in-ring work? Beyond, I'm not saying interviews and charisma and all that. We're just talking about, shoulder tackle, headlock takedown.
Yeah, but you got to
drag.
put it all in there because it was a whole package.
I agree.
Randy's intensity and Randy's look and his intensity and his charisma is what made him.
Well, I don't disagree, and I think he was the catalyst for WrestleMania 5 being what it was.
No doubt.
And that's clear because, as you said, it was probably the second biggest WrestleMania of all time at that point. Business took a big dip from that year forward, and the match people still talk about the most from WrestleMania 7 is his match with Warrior. It's not Slaughter and Hogan. So the legacy of the Macho Man will go on forever. Is there anything you want to kind of leave us with as we talk about when the Mega Powers explode? Did we kind of cover all the major points in what I believe is one of the best angles you guys ever did?
Yeah, I think that it was something that just showed what you could do if you planned ahead and stuck with the plan and you had the right talent in the right places. It told a beautiful story. Everybody got it. They got it along the way, but then when we went back and told them the story again, everybody was invested in it and everybody got it. And everyone involved, Hulk, Elizabeth, Randy, they were made that much bigger throughout that entire year of telling that story. So I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was one of the best stories that we had ever told.
Well, I don't disagree. I think it's one of the absolute best. And before we get out of here and put a bow on WrestleMania 5, because I don't know when we'll get back to it, that was the WrestleMania debut of a famous character and his interview segment that's probably near and dear to your heart. The Brother Love Show, and Roddy Piper was involved in that. Do you got any quick memories you'd like to go ahead and throw out about WrestleMania 5 and your involvement in that show?
Well, it was my first WrestleMania, and I had the privilege of working it with Roddy Piper, who I'd never worked with before and didn't know, but I had stolen so much from Piper. And
for those of you keeping score at home, after WrestleMania 3, Piper goes to Hollywood, starts making movies, works a retirement angle. So we're 2 WrestleManias after that before we really see him on main programming again. So from WrestleMania 3 to WrestleMania 5, there is a Piper hiatus. You come in after 3, so you guys wouldn't have necessarily crossed paths in New York at that point.
Correct. And I'm out doing the Brother Love Show, which was anybody that came in after Roddy Piper, everything was compared to Piper's Pit. Right. And I kind of got the comparisons. They stopped because, well, mine lasted. And it was just such a natural. I stole so much from Roddy. He was so great. And to be able to work with him on the grandest stage of them all was a dream come true. And we got to work with Morton Downey Jr., who was a talk show host at the time. And he was very famous and a celebrity in his own right. But that had to be one of the most fun days ever. The lead up, me having to go out to Denver and meet with Roddy and explain the concept to him was fun as well. And just getting to know Roddy.
It seems like that
started a long friendship.
It seems like that segment went kind of long. Was that the original way it was supposed to go?
No. Once I left, it went off the tracks. It took a while to get back on.
Because of Downey or because of Piper or both?
Combination of both, yeah.
Live TV, what are they going to do, right?
There you go.
Do you still have the kilt?
I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I sure do. One of the very few things that I have of my Brother Love genre stuff.
WrestleMania 5, we've talked about this angle now for quite a while. The Mega Powers explode. Between 4 and 5, were you just working television production, or were you involved in the creative writing aspect of the show at that point?
A little bit of both, but mainly television production.
So would you have been in the meeting when this is first kind of pitched and put together about the year-long angle and all the little subtleties?
I was brought into that, in the very beginning, because they had to have someone
Heads up
from
on where the shots
production
were going
on to make sure that we get all these things throughout the year.
Was Kevin Dunn in those meetings?
No.
So you would relay that to Kevin Dunn and his crew in the truck?
Yes, sir.
Okay.